There's a hole in the ceiling of almost every home in Britain, and most people don't even know it's there. It's not in the roof, it's not in the walls, it's your loft hatch, that small wooden panel above the landing that you probably haven't opened since last Christmas. And right now, in thousands of homes across the country, that little square of timber is letting more heat escape than an open window. I want you to picture something. You've spent money on double glazing. You've had cavity wall insulation done. Maybe you've even topped up the loft insulation itself, rolled out thick and cozy across the joists. And yet the heating bill still climbs every winter, and you can't quite work out why. 9 times out of 10, when I go into a house like this, the answer is sitting quietly above their heads, framed in old warped timber, with gaps around the edges you could post a letter through. This is the loft hatch, and today we're going to fix one properly. Not with a tube of expandable foam and a prayer, but with real restoration work. Cleaning it up, repairing the timber, sealing it correctly, and insulating it so it actually does its job. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why this small, unglamorous piece of woodwork matters so much, and how you can restore yours for around 20 pounds. Here's the thing about loft hatches. When your house was built, the loft was treated as a storage space, not a living space. Nobody expected you to care about the temperature up there. So builders fitted a thin sheet of plywood or MDF, hinged it, or simply rested it on a wooden lip and moved on. It was never designed to be airtight. It was never designed to be insulated. It was designed to keep the ladder from falling through and not much else. Fast forward 20, 30, sometimes 50 years, and that same hatch is still sitting there. The timber has dried out and shrunk slightly. The lip it rests on has warped just a touch. There might be a gap running the entire length of one edge that you'd never spot just glancing up from the landing. Warm air rises. It's basic physics. And when it reaches the ceiling, if there's a gap, it doesn't stop. It pours straight through into the cold loft space above, taking your money with it. People replace windows. People replace boilers. Almost nobody thinks about the loft hatch because it's small, it's out of sight, and it doesn't look broken. But damage to timber isn't always about cracks and splinters. Sometimes it's about a piece of wood no longer doing the job it was built for, and that's exactly what's happening here. Before you fix anything, you need to actually understand what you're looking at. So let's talk about what to check for, because a loft hatch can suffer from more problems than you'd expect. Start with the gap around the edges, get a torch, climb up, and look at where the hatch meets its frame. In a lot of older homes, you'll see daylight, or at least a visible gap, running along one or more sides. This is the number one culprit. Even a gap the width of a pencil, running the full length of the hatch, adds up to a surprisingly large hole when you calculate the total area. Next, check the timber itself for warping. Wood moves with temperature and humidity, and a hatch that sits between a warm hallway and a cold, damp loft space is under constant stress. Look for edges that have bowed outward or corners that have lifted. If the hatch no longer sits flush in its frame, that's warping, and it's a major reason drafts get in. Look for cracking or splitting, particularly if the hatch is made from thin plywood. Over the years, especially if the loft has ever had a damp problem, plywood can delaminate. The layers start to separate, and you'll see it bubbling or flaking at the edges. Check the hinges and the catch if it has one. A loose hinge means the hatch doesn't close snugly against the frame, and a missing or broken catch means there's nothing pulling it tight. It's just resting there under gravity, which is nowhere near good enough. And finally, feel for cold air. Genuinely, on a cold day, hold the back of your hand a few inches below the hatch. If you can feel a draft, you don't need to inspect anything else. You've found your problem. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why not just buy a new insulated loft hatch kit? You can, and for some homes that's the right call, particularly if the timber is badly rotted or cracked beyond saving. But for the vast majority of hatches I come across, the timber itself is perfectly sound. It's solid wood or good quality ply. It's just never been sealed or insulated properly. Ripping it out and replacing it means new timber, new hinges, sometimes cutting into the ceiling to fit a bigger frame, and a cost that can run into 3 figures once you include fitting. Restoring what's already there costs a fraction of that, keeps solid, useful timber out of a skip, and in most cases takes less than an afternoon. That's the appeal of restoration over replacement in general. You're not just saving money, you're working with materials that have already proven they can last decades, and simply bringing them back up to the job they need to do. Right, let's get into the actual work. I'll walk you through this step by step, the same way I do it on a real job. Step 1, cleaning. Take the hatch down if it's removable, or prop it open securely if it's hinged. Give it a proper clean with a damp cloth to get rid of loft dust, which is often surprisingly greasy from years of settled air. Let it dry fully before doing anything else. You cannot glue, fill, or seal damp or dusty timber and expect it to hold. Step 2, removing old finish where needed. If the hatch has flaking paint or an old cracked varnish along the edges, you'll want a sanding block or an electric sander to take that back to clean timber, particularly around the edges where your new seal is going to sit. You don't need to strip the whole panel back to bare wood. Focus on the perimeter because that's where the sealing strip needs good contact. Step 3, sanding. Once the old finish is off the edges, go over the whole hatch with a medium grit sandpaper, something like 120 grit, to smooth everything down and remove any splinters or rough patches. If you're planning to repaint or revarnish the hatch afterwards, finish with a finer 220 grit for a smooth surface. Step 4, repairing cracks and gaps. This is where it gets interesting. If you found any splits in the timber, particularly along the grain, this is the moment to fix them. For a hairline crack, a good quality wood glue worked into the gap with a thin flexible spreader or an old credit card will do the job beautifully. Clamp it if you can, or weight it down evenly, and leave it for the time stated on the glue, usually a few hours minimum for a full bond. For a wider gap or a chip where wood has actually gone missing, wood glue alone won't have anything to grip onto. This is where epoxy filler earns its place. Epoxy is a 2-part filler. You mix a resin and a hardener together and it sets rock hard, unlike ordinary wood filler which can shrink or crumble over time. Push it into the gap with a filling knife, slightly overfilling it. Then once it's cured, sand it back flush. Epoxy is brilliant for structural gaps because it actually bonds to the timber fibers rather than just sitting on top like a standard filler. Step 5, dealing with the frame. Don't just focus on the hatch itself. Check the frame it sits into as well. If the lip has warped or has old crumbling sealant on it, clean that back too. This is often where the real gap is hiding, not on the hatch panel itself. Step 6, fitting draft seal. Now we get to the actual insulation upgrade. You want a self-adhesive foam or rubber draft excluder strip, the kind sold for doors and windows. Clean the frame lip thoroughly with a bit of methylated spirit or sugar soap so the adhesive has something to properly stick to. Dust and grease are the enemy of a good bond here. Then run the strip continuously around the frame, mitering the corners neatly rather than overlapping them, which can create lumps that stop the hatch closing flush. This single step, a few pounds of foam strip, is doing more work than almost anything else in this whole process. It's creating a compressed seal every single time that hatch closes, cutting off the draft pathway completely. Step 7, insulating the hatch panel itself. If your hatch is a thin single sheet of ply or MDF, it's acting like a cold bridge, a thin, uninsulated patch surrounded by thick loft insulation. Cut a piece of rigid insulation board to match the size of the hatch and fix it to the upper face, the loft-facing side, using a suitable adhesive or simple screws through pre-drilled pilot holes if the panel is sturdy enough. This brings the hatch up to a similar insulation standard as the rest of your loft, rather than leaving a thin, cold, weak point right in the middle of it. Step 8, refitting the catch or fixing the hinge. Whatever mechanism holds the hatch closed, make sure it's actually pulling the panel snug against that new draft seal. A loose catch means the seal never fully compresses, and you lose most of the benefit. Tighten hinges, adjust catches, and if the original catch was weak or missing, this is a good moment to fit a simple, secure barrel bolt or turnbuckle. Step 9, finishing. If you sanded back paint or varnish, now's the time to reapply a coat of the appropriate finish, a simple wood sealer or matching paint, to protect the exposed timber and give the hatch a clean, cared-for look. For this job, you'll typically need a torch, sandpaper, and a couple of grits, a sanding block, wood glue, a small tub of 2-part epoxy filler, a filling knife, self-adhesive foam draft excluder strip, sugar soap or methylated spirit for cleaning, a piece of rigid insulation board, a craft knife or fine saw to cut it to size, a screwdriver, and if needed, a new catch or bolt. None of this is specialist equipment. Most of it you can pick up in one trip to a hardware shop for well under 20 pounds.